Hello and welcome to the next episode of the Overcome Yourself podcast. As you know, my name is Nicole, and I'm so excited to be here today with, I didn't clarify, Tanya. Is that how you pronounce it? Okay, Tanya.
Perfect.
So excited to be here with Tanya. So Tanya, take it away. Tell us who you are and tell us your amazingness. I'm so excited to be here with you today.
Thanks, Nicole. I'm so excited to be here as well. I thought about this question. I'm like, I know she's going to ask me this. So should I give her the long form or the short form? So I was born in Iran. My family immigrated to Canada a few years after I was born, about between 3 and 4. And went through school here. And then I was that person that kind of knew what they wanted to do with their life. So in high school, I thought I wanted to get into law enforcement. I think I watched too many of those CSI shows. And I studied criminology in university. And I was an auxiliary sergeant with the Toronto Police. I was working with one of my professors that was really active in the medical marijuana movement in Canada at the time. And then one day I decided to go to Australia to visit my cousin. I took kind of a leave of absence, and that was kind of a new chapter in my life. I caught the travel bug and started traveling, and everything in my life was focused around traveling. I was bartending in Toronto and working at a science museum, and I would just like work as much as I could in the summer and then save up and escape in the winters.
So cool.
And yeah, I was kind of a snowbird at a young age, I guess. And then I was living in Costa Rica at the time. I was on a scuba diving boat in the Bahamas, met my husband. And he's like, how would you like to be a yacht chef? And I was like, oh my gosh, that sounds spectacular. I can travel and I can work and do something creative. Amazing. Little did I know my days were going to be like 18 hours a day. We did see some amazing places. And we did that for close to a decade. And then I became pregnant with my daughter, Zoe. And we were living in St. Pete, Florida at the time. My husband is Floridian, born and raised. And then just before the pandemic hit, we were on this side of the border visiting family. And I was pregnant with my second. And we thought, you know what, let's just stay close to family. And so now we're in Canada.
Oh, that's so cool.
Yeah. And so a few years back, my dad suggested we translate some Persian stories. You know, I guess having my daughter and the stories that my parents were telling her and stuff like that. And I can't read Persian. And he's like, why don't we translate and transliterate these stories? And then he's like, well, we're going to have to get an illustrator. And I was like, wow, I don't like to delegate things. I like to do things myself. So I'm like, I'm going to learn how to do illustrations. And I love art, but I really haven't done much of it. And so that was my new project. I was learning watercolors, and I would stay up late and put on YouTube videos, and you can learn everything on YouTube now, right? So
I've learned so many things on YouTube.
Right?
My whole business I learned on basically on YouTube, yes.
Exactly. So I started playing with watercolors, and it was exactly what I needed. Like it was, you know, I'm a new mom. I've been a mom for about 6 months to a year at this point. And it was just, I'd put on the baby monitor and Zoe would be sleeping, and I would just sit in the kitchen table and do my art. And that was almost 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago. And then, you know, life got in the way, things got busy, had a second one. And this past year or so, my dad and I have been focusing on getting this project done. I just a few days ago, I finished my Kickstarter. I had a Kickstarter campaign for a month. Thank you. For those who don't know what Kickstarter is, it's a crowdsourcing and getting pre-orders pretty much for authors and illustrators. It's really important to know how many books to print. You know, like it changes, it varies so much, right? I mean, I could have printed 10 books, or I could have printed 1,000 books. And so to know, to kind of put it out there and find out who's actually interested in this project. And the feedback was amazing. I had so much wonderful support. And I think if I have my numbers correctly, I got pre-orders for 165 books, I think.
Wow, yay, congratulations.
Yeah, thank you so much. And then an extra 20 that I'll be donating, an extra 25 that a friend is donating. And we just, so like just under 200 books. And I'm really excited about that. Thanks. So my life has been pretty much like focusing on this book now. I went from, you know, being a yacht chef was a pretty creative job, I think. I had a lot of fun with plate presentation and I think, you know, I was telling someone about this the other day. I think that being a yacht chef, I loved, one of the reasons was constantly hearing someone tell me that my food is amazing. You know, like I'm that person that needs to hear someone tell me that what I'm doing is great. And so, you know, you become a mom and then you're like, huh, no one's telling me that anymore. I have to find that within, you know? So
I love that. I never thought of that before, but yeah. Yeah, the chef, you get a lot of compliments if you're good, right?
right, exactly.
That is amazing. I love your story of following your passion. I was a CSI kid too. I was just telling my partner the other day how like Thursday night was CSI night, like, homework
Yeah.
was done and, dinner would be like done and like dishes would be washed and everybody would gather up in the living room. And I wanted to be a forensic pathologist
Yep.
until I found out that you have to work with alive people for like a lot of years before you can actually specialize. And I was like, no, I'm not here for that. And so
And there's
I
like
went out the
4
window.
people probably who do it, right? It's like such a
Right.
small, right?
Yes. So, no, but it's kind of cool because I tell people like the forensic side of things comes in when I'm building a website or when I'm, doing something with coaching, and it's putting those clues together to find out where's this problem coming from or what happened in this situation. And so we kind of still use a lot of those skills that we learned. Like I remember one of my science projects was how to like find fingerprints, like, with the dust. And then later on, there was an episode of CSI where Grissom used lead, like from lead pencils. And I was like, I didn't think of that. Oh my God. Um, random little side note that you made
Right.
me think of. But yeah, I love how you literally just followed your passions. Like you were like, I want to do something in law enforcement. And then you did it. And then you were done. And you're like, I want to do something else now. And then you did it.
Right. Yeah.
Talk to me about, because those are big decisions. So talk to me about the process of making those decisions. Did you have to overcome yourself, or are you just kind of like, this is just your thing, and you just went for it full force? You leaned in, right? You just leaned in.
Right. I'd like to say that I'm this like easygoing, go with the flow kind of person. You know, I'm a Pisces. And if I say that to my husband, he won't agree with me on that. I'm definitely not super easygoing. I think that I believe a lot about the energy and the feeling of things, like it just seemed right to travel. It just seemed right to take this trip and to try something new. And I don't think I've ever really feared trying new things. I do have commitment phobia. So like getting myself, trying to commit with friends the other day to like a date in the future that we can do something. I'm like, I don't know what my life's going to be like in a week or a month or a year, So the commitment stuff is a little hard for me, but just feeling something and giving it a try, I think that's always been part of my personality. If I was traveling, there's a lot of times when I'd be traveling with someone and be like, oh, like I think we were in Switzerland. Yeah, I was in Interlaken, Switzerland, I think. And I met a group of people and they're like, oh, we're going to Slovenia next. And I was like, I've never really heard of Slovenia, but that sounds cool. Let's go there. And so, I tagged along with them and it turned out to be a really amazing trip and met some new friends there. And so I think I've been kind of open to trying new things and going with the flow. The part that slows me down is the like overthinking in terms of like trying to make something perfect. So if it's trying something new, I'm open for that. It's when it's like my project and now I'm like, okay, my name's going behind this and I need to make it perfect, which I think is what slowed us down so much on this book. I was like, no, but the cover's not this and we need to change this. And my dad's kind of the opposite. He's like, it's great. It's wonderful. It's perfect. Let's get it out there. And I'm like, no. And so I think we've come to a happy medium. The book's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect. But it's really good now. We've made some changes that really made it good. So I think being aware of my perfectionism side was definitely important. And then setting realistic goals and really following through on them. I would like come up with these like lists of, okay, I want to do this and that today. And I put timelines to them. And as soon as my timer would go off, I'd set an extra timer. I'd be like, oh, give me like half an hour more. And that's not okay. You can't do that when you're a procrastinating perfectionist.
Yes.
So,
There's a lot of gold in what you said. I love that balance of having your dad like be like, no, let's just put it out there, because as women, we do tend to be more perfectionist. And one of the things that I've learned to embrace is taking imperfect action. And one of the examples that I like to give some of my clients when they're nervous about putting something out and they're like, I don't know if it's not perfect. I'm like, do you remember when they rolled out Disney Plus? Hold on. I can edit this out. Give me 1 second. Okay. So I was like, do you remember when they released Disney Plus, like the thing? It was a mess. Like the first day that they released it, nobody could log in. It was logging people out. There was like almost no videos on there. And you know what? They put it out, they dealt with the problems, and like most of the people I interview are like, oh, I don't even remember that. I'm like, yeah, that's exactly my point, is that people don't remember those tiny mistakes. So they put it out, even though it wasn't perfect. They're like, all right, let's just beta roll with this and see what happens, and we'll fix the mistakes as we go. And that's such a big deal, especially for us women to hear, is taking that imperfect action. It's okay if it's not perfect. It's more important that it's out there helping people, and the people will let you know, hey, there's like a typo, and then you fix it. And then the books with the typos become limited edition.
Right.
You know, they become relics, you know? Yeah, and it reminds me of something I read in a book, The Confidence Code, about how like when they compare like a woman and a man looking at like a job offer, and a man will look and he's like, oh, I know about 60% of this stuff. I'll figure it out. Like I can figure out the other 40%. But a woman looks at it, she goes, I know about 90% of this stuff, but I don't know 10%. So I shouldn't apply because obviously I'm not qualified. And it's kind of like what you're saying is kind of like the entrepreneur version, where it's like, oh my God, it's 90% perfect, but I can't put it out because it's 10% messed up. And like your dad is like, dude, we're 60% of the way. We're good. Let's just put it out there. And so coming to that happy medium, that's where we get things done, you know, because like you said, things are never going to be perfect. So that's a really important lesson.
And then what disservice are we doing by not putting it out there, right? Like there aren't many books that are in Persian that are written in this phonetic script, so that someone who can't read the Persian script can pick up this book and read it, you know? And so me not putting it out there is like preventing people, like a lot of my cousins who are half Persian, or maybe their spouse is not Persian, to be able to introduce these really cool stories to their kids and expose them to, you know, new cultures, new experiences. And that was helpful for me to hear someone say that. I was like, yeah, I am doing a disservice. So let me, you know, get it together and get it out there. And that persistence, like you were saying, like just moving forward, you know, like just facing it head on, moving forward. And as long as we're going in this direction as opposed to that, then hopefully.
And when you see it that way, selling is an act of love. Like by someone giving you money for this book, it's an act of love that you're showing them, because like you said, that's incredible. Like even like you wrote a book, okay, but like the fact that you, like you said, you translated it, and so more people are going to have access to something that's so important. Like my family's Cuban, and so I understand the importance of like passing these things down, these stories, like Jose Marti. He was a very famous Cuban writer, and to be able to pass those stories down, even if maybe, you know, people don't speak Spanish, be like, here, I can still share these poems with you because somebody translated them. And so that's a beautiful thing. So I commend you for that. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Yes. So how do we stay in touch with you? How can we buy your book? Talk to me about that.
Thank you. So my daughter Zoe was my inspiration. And you might notice she's got like really big blue eyes. My husband's actually half Cuban, believe it or not, but he has a little bit of the Swedish side in him. So she's got these big blue eyes. And so the bird that I illustrated has these really big blue eyes. So Zoe, and her name is Zoe Tupelo. So my website is Zoe Tupelo Books. So it was going to be a series. Now I got to think about my son and be like, oh my gosh, is he going to be upset that I have a book series under Zoe's name? But anyway, so Zoe Tupelo Books. And what I've done is I've transferred a lot of the information from my Kickstarter over, because the Kickstarter, I put like some fun, you know, I made some like pillows with the illustration of the bird and some puzzles and random things like that kind of complement the book, and some activity pages, coloring pages. So I'm going to transfer those over. And so Zoe Tupelo Books. Also my Instagram is also Zoe Tupelo Books, I think. Yeah, it is. So you can follow me there. I think on Facebook is probably the same, but all the links are on my website as well. And I'm sure you put those on the
yes, in the show notes. Yes, everything that she's mentioned is going to be down below in the show notes, or where, you know, the notes. I don't know, wherever you're watching this, it's the notes will be around here somewhere. So make sure you click on those links. And you follow Tanya, buy her book. Who's the book for? Like it's like a little kid's book.
Yeah, so it's a nursery rhyme. So my
Love
daughter's 4 and she's learning how to read now. So she knows the phonetics. And so she picks up the book now. And I had another mom commented how it was so fun to her to see her like 6-year-old be able to read Persian. So even though it's more geared towards 5 and under, the fact that a 6-year-old who can speak the language can now like read it because of the phonetics. So yeah, I'd say 5 and under is probably ideal. And there's, the story is about overcoming obstacles and celebrating achievements, right? It's about this bird who like hatches from the egg. And I think a lot of times these stories allow us the opportunity to talk to our kids about these messages, so you could read the nursery rhyme. It's fun. It sounds interesting and has a beautiful rhyme. And even the English translation, we made it into a rhyme. But I think that opportunity to discuss those things with our kids and be like, hey, like what's an example of something you did that was hard at first? You weren't able to ride. We talked to our daughter now. She loves riding her bike. She wasn't able to at first, right? And she resisted it, right? Yeah. And so for myself, like being able to write, like create this book and get it out there, that was definitely an obstacle, and I'll celebrate.
There was a point in your life where you didn't know how to write, and now you wrote a book.
Exactly.
I love it. So any last minute tips? Like everything that you've told us is just absolutely amazing. I'm blown away by you. I just want you to know. By the way, what part of Florida is your husband from?
So he was born in Gainesville, but grew up in the Keys. And then we lived, nice. When we were working on boats, we were mostly in Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and Bahamas, which is beautiful. And then we lived in St. Pete, Florida.
Love it. I'm in Miami, so that's why I was asking.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah,
we go back and forth a lot. We'll be there for the boat show in a few weeks.
Oh, very cool. Love it. So any last minute tips for entrepreneurs out there who have a dream in their heart, who want to follow that dream, or who want to write a book like you've done, who maybe want to like bring something from their culture over, they want to translate it. What advice do you have for us?
I would say, try not to compare yourself with others too much. I really struggled with that. I think as starting this book, I joined all these Facebook groups with authors and illustrators. And I was like, oh, they're doing this on their Kickstarter and they're doing that. And it was good because I learned a lot from them, but comparing myself really like hindered things in a way as well. So try to learn from others, but don't compare yourself to who you are today, to who you were, let's say a month ago or a year ago. Like I don't think a couple of years ago, I thought that I was going to put this book out there, but I've come so far. And, some of those skills that I've learned and just step by step and knock down those walls and you'll become a lot stronger in the end.
I love it. You're amazing. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having me.
Oh yes, absolutely. No, it's absolutely my pleasure. So do you have any final words before we sign off here?
No, that's it. I'm excited to get in contact with other author illustrators and other people who want to introduce Persian to their kids, and that's about it.
I love it. Thank you so much, Tanya, for being here. Like she mentioned, everything that we talked about, all the links, all her offers, like you can follow her on Instagram, you can grab her book. All of those notes are going to be down. All of those links, are going to be down below in the show notes, or wherever you're watching. And so be sure to follow Tanya. Like this is incredible. All right. Have a great rest of the day, and we will see you guys next time.